Do you see that, Jess?
I see what looks like a really zoomed in screen.
Yes, I see that too.
Something changed. Tony, can you try and stop sharing and
Really
reshare?
zoomed in.
That looks good.
Perfect.
Hi, everybody. I'm showing just 2 or 3 minutes before the top of the hour. Appreciate everybody being here with us today. We're going to start about 1 or 2 minutes after the top so that we can make sure that everybody's had an opportunity to come in and get comfortable. And we appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. For those of you who are already with us, just a quick reminder that to open your chat window, you can click on the bottom toolbar at the lower end of your screen. The chat icon will certainly launch the chat for you. We encourage you to say hello, chat with one another, and we will be beginning about a moment or two after the top of the hour. Thank you again for being here. I am showing the top of the hour. I appreciate everybody being here. I am going to wait for just 1 more minute and then we're going to get started. Thank you so much for being here. You will not be disappointed. Tony, if you could go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you being here. We know you have many choices when choosing your professional development, and there are so many opportunities here at the University of Arizona Global Campus. So thank you for choosing us, Ed Talks, brought to you by the Department of Education and Liberal Arts here at the Global Campus. I'm Jackie Kiger. I'm going to be your host today. I appreciate you being here. This will be our second presentation in our 8th series of education talks. Ed Talks are fashioned after TED Talks, the ever popular way of sharing concepts through personal storytelling. This year is all about multipliers and the awareness of its importance that the author Liz Wiseman has made known in her New York Times bestseller, Multipliers, How the Best Leaders Make Everyone Smarter. Our focus today will be on the topic of the talent magnet. Now, here to help us explore and extend Wiseman's foundational concept of the talent magnet with his story is our own Dr. Tony Farrell. Now, as you listen to his story, you might listen for your call to action in sharing your practices that support a culture of leadership and that multiplier effect within your classroom and interactions with your peers. Or perhaps you'll find a new practice that his story sparks for you. Tony, can you come on the video and say hello while I introduce you?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Let me tell you a little bit about Tony. Dr. Farrell is the chair of the Department of Education and Liberal Arts here in the College of Arts and Sciences at UAGC. He holds graduate degrees from National University and the University of Oklahoma, along with a terminal degree in special education from the University of Arizona. He is a professional educator, having served in leadership roles as teacher, educator, and administrator in both elementary and middle schools prior to his moving into higher education as a leader and professor. He and his wife and 4 children live in Southern California and are active sports enthusiasts. Tony, thank you so much for being here with us today. The next slide, please. I'm going to ask that we go ahead and remove our video so that we can get started. Participants, audience members, as a reminder, Ed Talks are fashioned after TED Talks, the ever popular way of sharing personal stories for only 18 minutes of monologue. We do this because we want to hear your stories, and we can do that best by sharing our stories. Our goal here is not necessarily to teach you anything new, as you are already an expert in your field. Our goal is to perhaps motivate you to try something new in your approach to helping your students succeed. Our storytelling approach is geared to not take a lot of your time, but rather to simply set the stage for an interactive conversation and perhaps encourage you to encourage your learner around the idea of what it means to have a talent magnet leading their learning. At the end of our Ed Talk today, we look forward to learning your story of what you're doing or what will be your approach as a talent magnet. Next slide, please. As you hear Tony's story, be thinking about these 3 questions as we hope to talk more with you about them at the end. But for now, please hold your chat comments to the end, as I don't want you to miss a single word. And with that, Tony, the microphone is yours.
Thanks, Jackie. Well, all right. I love baseball. During my life, there have been few things as important to me and my family. Baseball is what brings my family together. I played through college. I was a high school and travel ball coach. My sons all play. My wife, who was very indifferent towards baseball when we met, is now a big fan. The Farrell family and baseball are almost one and the same. As a boy, I was consumed with the game. I knew every player on my favorite teams, the Cincinnati Reds and San Diego Padres. I love baseball so much that my mom even made me a Johnny Bench costume for Halloween when I was 8. I mean, she sewed it together, painted the costume so that I looked exactly like Johnny Bench. I was consumed by the game. I would play after school, on the weekends, during the summer, whenever I could. As a kid, you always pretend that it's the bottom of the ninth. 2 outs, the base is loaded, and your team is down by 3 runs. You see the pitch, you swing. It's a grand slam. You win the game. You win the World Series. But as you can see by this picture, there is no crying in baseball. Actually, this couldn't be further from the truth. There's lots of crying in baseball. Some of my best cries have been on the baseball field. When I was 5 years old, my dad taking me to my first baseball game. When I was 11 years old, thinking that I was going to make the All-Star team, and I didn't. That wasn't such a good cry. The time my junior year, when my high school team won our first league championship in 20 years. Coaching my daughter's t-ball team, realizing how lucky I am to spend time with my kids. Coaching my son's t-ball team amid a health scare and thinking, this might be my last time coaching. That was an emotional day. Coaching another son as they go to the Bronco International World Series. The list goes on and on. I have definitely cried on the baseball field. For me, the greatest aspect of the game is that players come in all shapes and sizes. These are 2 great Major League Baseball players. One of them has won an MVP award and led the American League in hitting several times. Can you guess which one? Jose Altuve has won several batting titles and has been to many All-Star games. Jose is only 5'6" tall, and I think that's generous. He had to talk his way onto the baseball field as people thought he was too small. One scout for the Astros recognized his talent, a talent magnet, and signed Jose to a free agent contract. All it takes is for someone to recognize that you have talent, give you a chance, provide support, and watch that talent emerge and thrive. Personally, I'm not the biggest guy. In fact, I'm pretty short. However, I had coaches along the way who believed in me and looked past my height. They were talent magnets who saw that I could play and look past my size. When I was a young kid, I was small, overweight, had severe asthma. I wasn't what you would consider a stellar athlete. However, I love baseball. All my friends played and we had a great time. I don't really remember how much success I had as a 9 or a 10-year-old, but I do remember the coaches and adults who coached and mentored me, or recognized some talent that maybe I couldn't see, even if that talent hadn't emerged yet. As you can see, I was not the next coming of Johnny Bench, but I love the game. As I continued to play, I had some success and some failures. When I was 12, I played an entire season and only had 3 hits in 20-something games. I was sad, frustrated, and thought about quitting. However, Coach Jim Adesso kept encouraging me and made me believe that I would get better. He was someone who was a talent magnet and recognized that I would improve. The next year, I lost a bunch of weight and got better. I led the league in home runs and made the All-Star team. At 13, I made my first All-Star game. As a kid, this was monumental. This was life-changing as far as confidence goes. I believe that if I had a different coach, I may have stopped playing. I often equate these types of experiences to our students in the classroom. As an open enrollment institution, we have students with a variety of skills and abilities. They have a burning desire to gain their college degree. They may struggle. They may need an understanding and encouraging faculty member to help them through tough times. Many of them need a coach or mentor within the classroom that sees their potential. Like baseball players, students grow and develop with practice and encouragement. Faculty have the power to be that difference maker for our students. Like many who love baseball, my first real memory of being introduced to the game was with my dad. When I was around 7, My dad left my mom, brother, and I. Not a word, not a goodbye, not a see you soon. As a young boy, I didn't understand. Life changed instantly for our family. We went from a home in a nice community to living with friends and making multiple moves during that first year after my dad left. My mom didn't have a college degree or a job when this all happened. My mom took on the task of raising two boys on her own. She worked multiple low-paying jobs so that we could have a stable place to live. We lived in the same one-bedroom apartment from the time I was in third grade till I graduated from high school. My memories of that apartment were of my mom completely sacrificing for her sons. My brother and I shared that single bedroom for 11 years while she slept on the couch. She had no privacy or a quiet place to go. And my brother and I were not the best behaved kids during that time. Our apartment was filled with cockroaches, and we had to bag all of our food. We had no car and took the bus to get everywhere. We relied on government help just to make the rent. My mom worked extremely hard, but rarely attended any of my games growing up. However, the one thing that she always made sure of was to tell me that I had the potential to do great things in life. This is one of the few pictures that I have of my mom with a smile on her face. In my time here at UAGC, my why or my purpose has always centered on my mom. I have always thought of how much a university like UAGC would benefit her. I grew to appreciate how smart and capable my mom was. My mom was a high school valedictorian. She was intelligent and capable, but life just got in the way of her going to college. She tried to go back to school several times, but without transportation and kids who had health issues, she was always forced to quit. That's why I value our university and our mission of accessibility. I look through the lens of my mom. What if she was able to attend University of Arizona Global Campus from home? It might have changed the trajectory of her life and our family. She wouldn't need to walk a mile to catch a bus to go to San Diego City College. She might not have been so tired from her day to try to focus on going to school. She would have benefited and thrived at an institution like UAGC. I would not change a thing about my life now. However, growing up where I did was certainly not the easiest. When we think of San Diego, we think of beaches, sun, as we are often called America's finest city, or think it never rains in Southern California. My reality was a little different. I went to San Diego High School in the mid-1980s. I love San Diego High, as it is one of the oldest high schools in California. I am a proud graduate. I'm a caver. However, my school had issues with gangs, drugs, truancy, and high dropout rates. When I went to San Diego High School, I did not have much hope or a plan for anything beyond the day. I was not a good student. In fact, I probably spent more time trying to get out of class than actually going. I was a C student who lacked motivation, but I love baseball. As I got older, I got better and better, and by the time I was a sophomore, I made varsity. We were terrible. We weren't getting any better, and my teammates sometimes went to practice or just decided not to go. We had issues with eligibility and commitment. That all changed my junior year. We had the same team, same school, same players. However, Coach Tom Lopez was hired as a coach and math teacher. I've never been in any situation where one person completely changed the climate and culture of a team or organization. He set expectations, held people accountable. We were on time. We ran everywhere on the baseball field. We didn't use profanity. This was all very different than the previous year. We were told that players play, coaches coach, umpires umpire. Pick one. He wanted us to focus on playing and what we can control. We lost our first game that year and a few more along the way. We lost our first league game that year to our rival, Hoover High School, by 20 runs. However, we kept improving. By the end of the year, we had to beat Hoover for the league championship, and we did. We won our league for the first time in nearly 20 years. San Diego High has a rich baseball tradition. I still remember the feeling of winning that championship. This was not the most important thing that happened to me that year. One day, I was early for practice and helping Coach Lopez with the field. As a young man who did not have a father, I really looked up to Coach Lopez. As we were talking, he tells me that I'm good enough to play college baseball. I still remember that feeling of having someone believe in me who I admired. It changed me forever. Here I was, a kid who lived in a one-bedroom apartment, who didn't have too many people who thought too much of me or my future. A coach teacher who I greatly admired told me that I am good enough. I have a future. I have hope. It would be great to say that I became a straight A student who didn't get into any trouble. That would not be accurate. The impact of someone recognizing the talent of someone and nurturing that is so powerful. Liz Wiseman says that this is finding genius or being a talent magnet. What really changed for me? Was I a stellar student? No. Did I go to class all the time? Definitely no. What did change is my outlook and goals. During the next year and a half, our baseball program became one of the best in San Diego. I was going to get an opportunity to play college baseball. More importantly, because of a few well-timed words, I was going to go to college. The impact of a talent magnet or mentor sometimes cannot be quantified or measured simply by what happens today or tomorrow. When I went to college, I didn't have the best college baseball experience. I went to several different schools and it took me some time to graduate. I did have some great moments on the baseball field after graduating high school. I played on a summer team that won a national championship. I had some good games in college, but I came home after my third year. Like many of our students, I had financial issues and had to come home. Life got in the way, but I still had the burning desire to finish my degree and be an educator. What did I realize? I wanted to have the same impact on others that Coach Lopez had on me. I wanted to be an educator and be a high school baseball coach. I went back and coached at San Diego High with Coach Lopez. I learned so much and found my calling. I was going to be a teacher and coach. The impact that Coach Lopez had on me inspired me to try to have the same impact on others. There was another important person who would help shape my future during my time playing baseball at San Diego High School, Coach Mike Riley. He offered encouragement and support, and later would be the talent magnet that would change the trajectory of my life. During the time I was finishing my degree and continuing my path to coach high school baseball, I met my future wife and had a tough decision to make. She was going to be a nurse in the Army and would be leaving San Diego. I decided to change course and support my wife's career. We left San Diego, and I would not be a high school baseball coach in the near future. However, I was still moving forward as an educator. I taught for several years and focused on special education as an area that I really felt I could make a difference. While my wife was on active duty, we moved several times. During her last duty station, I enrolled in a special education doctoral program at the University of Hawaii. As we transitioned out of the Army, we moved to Colorado, where I became a high school special education teacher and eventually a school administrator. While in Colorado, I interacted with 3 talent magnets who recognized some talent that I had and supported my growth as an educational professional. Karen Tarbell may be the most talented school administrator that I have met or worked with. She hired me to help open a brand new middle school in the middle of the economic downturn in the early 2000s. There were many talented individuals who applied for this position. She hired me and showed me what it's like to lead with integrity and purpose. She said something that resonates with me today. She always made decisions with the perspective of what is best for students. I try to use the same perspective for every decision that I make as a leader today. I mentioned Coach Riley earlier. He's still coach to me. However, when I reconnected with him years later, he was Dr. Mike Riley, the executive dean for the School of Business at Ashford, now University of Arizona Global Campus. He knew that I had completed my PhD in special ed and UAGC might be a good fit for me. At the time, I was a school administrator looking to grow. I decided to apply for a full-time faculty position here at UAGC. This was a drastic move considering I had 3 kids and my wife was pregnant with our youngest son. Today, Doc Mike is still a full-time faculty member here at UAGC in the Forbes School of Business and Technology. He is someone who helped me grow as a kid and supported my pursuit of the best job I ever had, a true talent magnet. Dr. Andy Sheen is another leader who saw some talent in me that provided me with a life-changing opportunity. He hired me as a full-time faculty member, associate dean, and recommended me for the executive dean position within the College of Education. I am forever grateful for the opportunity he gave me and the example of connecting with people and really caring about the people who work for you. These talent magnets saw something in me that maybe I didn't see in myself. They were role models and affirmed that I have a responsibility to develop other leaders and help provide the same opportunity for others that I was afforded. More importantly, I've been given an opportunity to impact thousands of students through my role here at University of Arizona Global Campus. I have the greatest job in the world. I get up every day feeling how thankful I am to work here at UAGC. As the leader of the Department of Education and Liberal Arts, I believe that I have been a successful talent magnet for our university. The number of fantastic educators that I've been so fortunate to hire has been the greatest achievement of my professional career. Last month's Ed Talker, Dr. Denise Maxwell, was one of my associate deans, as was our interim provost, Dr. Iris Lafferty. These 2 fantastic educators are multipliers and talent magnets who I have the privilege of working with on a daily basis. Additionally, our faculty care deeply about their students and do everything that they can to help students graduate. The impact of these faculty on students can be similar to the impact that Coach Lopez had on me. As Dr. Donna Beagle, the founder of the Poverty Institute, shared with me in a conference several years ago, educators wear a sacred suit. The words they say matter. As the years have progressed during my career, I take these words seriously and work with a group of faculty and leaders that share that same perspective. How are you impacting your students? Is it the same way that Coach Lopez impacted me? You don't know how you impact your students, but I believe that we all become educators to make a positive difference in the lives of our students. As we consider the power of finding genius and supporting our students within the classroom, we don't know what the impact is that we have on our students, their lives, and the lives of their families. The power of education to change lives for the better is indisputable. In my life, there have been several mentors and educators who saw something in me and encouraged me to move forward with my life and career. I'm sure that Coach Lopez did not think that our conversation more than 30 years ago would have a dramatic impact on me and my family. As the years have gone by, baseball still continues to be one of the most important things to me. I love baseball. I love to coach. Life has a way of changing our plans. It certainly did for me. I haven't coached high school baseball in many years, but I've coached a lot over the years. 2 of my favorite coaches, Coach Lopez and Coach Riley, both went out of their way to encourage me in different ways. Sometimes I think, what if I didn't have that conversation with Coach Lopez? Would I still have been an educator? Would I have the same desire? Would I have had that hope? Would I have eventually completed my doctorate and found this great career in education? What if Coach Riley hadn't connected with me after all those years? Would I still be here at UAGC? Would I have the greatest job in the world? It didn't cost these educators anything to encourage me and help push me forward. What would it cost you to reach out to a student to have a kind and encouraging word? You never know. But that one act could change someone's life forever. I love baseball. My three sons all still play. They may play in college. They may not. However, they are going to go to college. Back to you, Jackie.
Tony, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story about baseball and how it is so much more than baseball. Your personal story, your starting point, your upbringing really resonates with me, how hard your mother worked, ensuring that you and your brother were first in everything she did. A young woman, your mother, a valedictorian, sleeping on the couch, putting you first. Makes me wonder, where are my students? And am I pausing and am I encouraging? Am I finding a space for them to feel welcome and dare to try? I appreciate you reminding us of that. Players play, coaches coach, umpires ump. And you're right. What if Coach Mike Riley had not connected? What difference we can make when we pause and connect. Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
Audience members, I reminded you at the top of the hour of these three questions. And consider your kind word, your good advice for your students, and the difference it can make in their academic pursuits. By identifying their talent with a simple phrase, a "have you considered" note may propel them to success. As we open up the chat line to consider your takeaways from today's story, let's frame our discussion around these questions. What impacts are you making on the lives of your students? What are your encouraging words to students? And can you identify a talent magnet who impacted your life? We'd also love to hear from you as well as chat from with you. Sorry, Tony.
That's okay.
Share with us your audio. It's a little bit different than we've done it in the past. So just simply raise your hand and I'll see that in the participant window. And then I will give you the microphone if you would like to come on microphone. We're not asking you to come on video today, but we certainly would encourage the chat feature. We certainly would encourage you to raise your hand. And I see that we have Sue has done that now. So Sue, I'm going to go ahead and you should have the ability to speak now.
Hi. The talent manager in my life was Mr. Bernstein, and he was my elementary music teacher, and that would be grades 3 through 5. I always loved music because my grandmother played piano, and I used to listen to it. So I started playing flute in 3rd grade. I still play flute today, and I travel internationally with the International Flute Orchestra, and I've been in 31 different countries. It was because of him and his support that really, I have 2 degrees in music. I mean, it's like, he was it.
Sue, thank you so much for sharing that and the places that it has taken you. Oh my goodness. Selfishly, my youngest daughter is a middle school band director, so I appreciated hearing every single word of that. So thank you.
It looks like we have a couple of hands raised.
I'm seeing Susan. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk there. Hopefully it worked for you. Susan Sasadek. I hope I pronounced that correctly. perhaps she changed her
Yeah,
mind.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to raise my hand, but I will add that I think it's really amazing how many people have impacted our lives. And as educators, how we can use that impact to turn around and pay it forward to impact our students.
Absolutely. And I appreciate,
Yeah.
you reminding us of that. I know for me, and I've already shared here, and hearing Tony's story of how he was brought up, reminded me of my mom. I'm sure we all thought of our mothers and the sacrifices that they've made. And then from that extended community, and in Tony's story, it was sports. In other stories, it might be Girl Scouts, it might be Cub Scouts, but you get that external influence of your community, of people reaching out who don't have to, and I think that's beautiful. Jen Robinson, I'm going to go ahead, and you should be unmuted.
Oh, the magic of technology. It's really interesting as a direct impact of Tony's talent magnet capabilities. It's really great to hear his story. And it made me think of Father Mario. When I was a youngster as well, I was written off as someone who had no potential to go to university. And lo and behold, I get to share all of my joy and passion of teaching with my students. But the one thing I remember from Father Mario is eye contact, and how important it was that he stopped everything he was doing and would sit and have eye contact with me as a 14, 15, 16-year-old altar server whenever I had a question. And so one of the things that I bring to me with the impact on my students is that eye contact through Zoom, through FaceTime, whatever students have, to be able to stop what I'm doing and have eye contact with students to let them know that they are worthy, they do belong here, and we do have time for them.
Absolutely. Thank you. I see a couple hands are raised here, so I'm going to go ahead and Mark, you should now be unmuted if you'd like to come online.
Hi, yes, thank you. Tony, that was a wonderful, inspiring story, and I had not known your background, and so thank you for sharing that with us. I wanted to share in high school on a whim, or maybe my counselor signed me up for ceramics class my freshman year, and my teacher, Miss Biel, she treated me like almost like an adult, like different than other teachers. Like the way she conversed with me as a student, and just worked with me, and it was so inspiring that I ended up taking ceramics all 4 years of high school, and I formed a really good student-teacher relationship. And even after high school, I've still stayed in contact. I need to check in with her recently. It's been a little while, but I would go every time I was in town back from college. I would come like at the end of the school day and visit her. But yeah, she just had a really wonderful impact on me, and I didn't end up pursuing ceramics or art, but just having that important relationship, I think, on a both a student teacher level, and then also somebody who just made you feel like you were valued and that you were valuable as a person. So thank you.
Absolutely, Mark. And it makes all the difference. It was about ceramics, but at the end of the day, it probably wasn't about ceramics. So I appreciate you saying that. I see one hand is up. Deanna Myers, if I'm going to go ahead and you should be unmuted.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
So mine is from a different perspective. I actually manage a training and development group in a power engineering company. So different kind of educator, right? But you never know if you're making an impact. And sometimes your ability or your effectiveness in making an impact is somewhat invisible. So I started our centralized training group for this company and figured no one was watching. Things were just going along. It was just kind of the next generation in our history, or the next, kind of cycle in our history. And one day, one of the engineers came up to me because I had to go back to school for a master's to do it. And he said, "You know what? You inspired me. All our talks about how it can be handled and it can be done. And if you just take a little bit of your weekend." And I never, ever, ever thought anyone was even paying attention. I thought I was just, kind of venting. So I think sometimes our ability to impact others can go invisible, sometimes even to ourselves.
Absolutely. It speaks to, don't give up on that kind word. Don't give up
Right.
on that stewardship of just doing your very best. And I appreciate you saying that in your work example, and I can just imagine how you are touching lives. So thank you for that. Kathleen, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
I just thank you, Tony, for sharing your story. I heard parts of it before, but hearing the whole story was very powerful for me to know who you are as a person. And in thinking about that and our students, it reminds me that we need to take the time to listen. Your coach had listened to you and your goals and your dreams, and because of that, helped support you and get you to where you wanted to go. So as an instructor, especially an online instructor, stop rolling our eyes at students who's had their dog die or their aunt die or their, these wonderful stories that we hear from students. And they're not necessarily stories. They're trying to share with us. They're trying to tell us their trials and tribulations in life. And by taking the time to listen to them, we can have an impact on them and help them succeed, meet them where they are and move them to the next level. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you, Kathleen. I see, as I look through the chat, Tisha reminds us with your story, it helps us identify, with our students and perhaps what their story is as well. And Denise, as always, talks about, in her encouraging words, using encouraging words with students is sharing what you see in them and encouraging them to use those talents and abilities. She goes on to say, I love it when students see the growth mindset in their own thinking and sharing. I can't do that yet. Boy, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? And I appreciate you reminding us of that, Denise. And it's amazing, I feel like, as we teach in an online setting, how we can develop those relationships. And if I tell a story about something with myself and a student, there are probably immediately 10 other stories that can be told with the folks who are here today, because it's not, online is not a cold, distant place. It can be very personal. And when we have that forward thinking, when we hear students say that they can't do something, and we just offer up, please finish that sentence with the word yet, and how that turns them around in their thinking. And then, how that serves them through the rest of their studies.
It's interesting, Jackie, and I certainly love to hear from our faculty and those who are participating in the ad talk today. But, when I tell this story, often I get very emotional and I can't get through it, but I think the biggest thing, when I think about the impact that we as faculty have on students, as teachers on students, is you just don't know. You don't know who's sitting in your class, and you don't know who, that word of encouragement, what it can mean to a family. I mean, I know Doc Mike is still here. I think he's still here and a participant. He, there's somebody who did way more for me than I shared during the presentation. And, I know I wouldn't be here today without somebody like Doc Mike. So, when you're sitting in, a class and you're providing feedback to students, and you've had a hard day, or maybe you're a little frustrated with a response or what have you, just be mindful that words, and I go back to what Dr. Donna Beagle shared with us several years ago during a presentation. We wear a sacred suit as educators, right? I mean, the words that we say matter. And, you know, you could be the inspiration. You could be the force that pushes somebody up over the hill to really make some meaningful changes in their lives, or to help them grow. And you know, I think we all become educators because there's some internal calling that says, hey, this is what we're meant to be. And, you know, and I go back to the group of people that I work with directly. I mean, the finest group of professionals that I've ever worked with. And, you know, fortunately, I've had an opportunity to hire a great deal of them. And, you know, it's the proudest thing I've ever done professionally is to hire this great group, to include you, Dr. Kiger. So.
Well, I appreciate that. And Tony and I have worked together now for 8 years at least. And Coach Mike, thanks. The Department of Education and Liberal Arts would be here. I don't know that it would shine the way that it shines though. So thanks, Coach. We appreciate you having that forward thinking to say, hey, this might be something you might want to be a part of, because all these years later now, look at what it has grown into with this team. So that is very exciting. I see many postings, but as we're starting to wrap this up, I kind of want to leave you all with Dr. Julie Atkins' post here about sometimes just asking, how are you doing? Or just checking in is all the encouraging words our students need. They just want to know that we care. And thank you, Julie, for that reminder. And as we wrap this up, I think that's probably the message is, what's the saying? Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So all good things must come to an end, as does this Ed Talk too. Hey, Tony, next slide for me, please. We would ask that as our time is winding down here, that you please watch the chat box or your screen for a link to the Ed Talk homepage, where this recorded Ed Talk will be archived for future viewing along with certificates of participation. You'll also find the link to the Ed Talks homepage in today's invitation. Next slide, please. We again want to acknowledge the work of Dr. Liz Wiseman and her Multiplier books for the inspiration for today's Ed Talk, as well as the rest of our series this year. Gotta close my windows out here. And mark your calendars and be watching for an invitation in May for our next Ed Talk session, where on May the 20th, Dr. Adrian Hansen will be sharing a very liberating story on the topic of multipliers. We thank you for joining us today. On behalf of the UAGCs, the Department of Education and Liberal Arts here in the College of Arts and Sciences, we thank you for being here. We'll see you next month. Bye now.
Thanks, everybody.